So we're going to begin this workout with a 90-90 position against a wall. You want to make sure you have shoes or your bare feet, but not socks because they'll slide. And we're just going to do a very basic tilt of the pelvis, line it up with the rib cage, and breathe while we set the low back in place. So the feet are a little closer together than the knees, but the knees are directly above the hips and the same width. We're going to slightly tuck the low back or the tailbone, rounding the low back till that tailbone lifts about 2-3 inches off the ground and we feel the hamstrings contract. It's going to be a light contraction, but it will be there. It might even be slightly shaky right off the bat, which is always good. And from here, again, the low back is down, but the tailbone's roughly 2-3 inches off the ground so that we get that hamstring tension. Now from here, we're going to breathe in through the nose, long, deep nasal inhales, very slow, filling out the sides, the belly forward, the kidneys back. If I had an inner tube around my waist, I want to breathe into all 360 degrees. And on the exhale, I'm going to pull everything nice and tight, getting it all out. So I want to feel like my trunk turns into a corset and gets more and more tightened. The ribs are going to come in, down. Everything's going to compress like this. Audible exhales. Get all that air out. Should make it sound like this in the voice. Breathe deep into the 360. We're going to do 5 breaths. Make sure you have equal weight in both feet and you're getting a pretty even contraction in both hamstrings. Usually my left one wants to work more for me, so I have to really put my brain in my right hamstring to get that to work. My feet are pulling down the wall to keep my hips elevated. Last breath. Should get that good quiver hamstring activation and our breathing in. For the second exercise, we're going to come into prone or laying on the belly. We're going to get the elbows under our shoulders, hip shoulder width apart, and notice that my shoulders want to sag here. First thing I want to do is look forward, lift my shoulders, pushing my elbows down into the ground to get taller through the crown of my head, and that should create some tension in the front of the abdomen. And from that position, I'm going to keep my hips on the ground, but I am going to bring my sternum and navel back in space, trying to build the bra strap line back behind me, lifting my kidneys, bra strap line, not crunching the neck here, staying sprouted. That's going to drop my vision down to my thumb line, and I'm going to keep it there for the remainder of the 5 breaths. So this should be pretty intense. Again, I'm not picking my hips up. I'm leaving the hips down. Tuck those back toes under the heel to remain activated throughout the whole body. Once everything's up and away from the floor, same breathing as the exercise before for 5 breaths. Again, try to find the quiver, even weight in both left and right forearm. Keeping the sides of the neck long and visible, crown reaches on those exhales, doesn't shrink in. Two more. I'm pushing my forearms and elbows down into the ground on that exhale, pulling myself almost like I was going to pull myself forward, but just to keep tension. Like I'm pulling back to get more abdominal contraction. Make sure on these exhales you're getting all the air out of the body. There's always a little bit of air left. Play with the idea of getting more and more of it out on your exhales. The third exercise is going to be the frog bridge. Feet are together like prayer hands, set on their sides, pretty close to the hips. You can play with distance from the hips as you need. Now from here, I want to exhale, getting my low back down to the ground, keeping my kidneys snug into the floor. I'm not jamming my knees down in towards the floor. I'm kind of thinking about growing my knees wide out to the left and right. I'm not, again, pressing my knees down toward the floor because then we could get some pinching in the hip. I want to grow them wide. Now from there, I want you to imagine you have a big Texas belt buckle on, you're going to lightly tip it back. We don't want to be in this position in the frog bridge. We want to get those kidneys snug, which pulls the belt buckle up towards the sternum. Now from that position, I'm going to lift 2-3 inches, nothing crazy. I'm going to grow my knees wide. You're going to feel those glutes contract. And we're going to do the same 5 breaths initially. So we'll start with the 5 breaths. Exhale, grow the knees wide. Get all the air out. Imagine the groin or the inner thighs being open. If I was in a really narrow hallway and both my knees were touching either side wall, I want to grow my knees through the wall. Again, ribs come down and together on those exhales. Get all the air out. Last one. Fill the cylinder. Grow the knees. Now after 5 breaths, the reason I said initially take 5 breaths, if you still feel like you can hold this for a while, you can also take this to a failure or a 90 to 100% failure to really get the glutes to go. 5 breaths is plenty for the workout though. And our last position. So this is the Nordic reverse curl. I'm hip width apart with the knees, feet are untucked back behind me. I am again going to tilt the belt buckle, shortening the abdomen, elongating the low back, not getting hyperextension in the low back. I like to place a hand on the belt buckle and the tailbone, and I lift one as the other dives. To go the other way, the tailbone elevates to the ceiling, compressing the low back, and the belly spills forward, dropping the belt buckle. So you want to make sure that you have good, almost locked out positioning. You don't want to be forcing it so much that this is stressful. You just want to hold a light position there. Again, we are connecting the pelvis or the pelvic bowl to the diaphragm and creating a cylinder or a capsule from the side. So I'm a straight line from my ear, shoulder, hip, all the way to my knee. And in this one, we're gonna do a light reach back instead of reps. So you're just gonna go backwards until you feel a good amount of tension, nothing crazy, but this stays flush. Low back does not untuck, and we don't pinch at the hips. Hips remain long, low back remains long. 5 breaths, exact same, equal weight through the knees and feet. Tall through the crown. You're looking for that shake, that quiver. Breathing will be a little harder in this upright position. Breathe behind the shield of tension. Try to find the shake. All the air out. And that is the last movement. Again, we're putting the pelvis in line with the rib cage, building a capsule out of our trunk and doing it from multiple angles. So in the video, you can pause after each movement, repeat them 3 times, and then continue. Or you can follow it all the way through 3 rounds. And if you're crazy, do 4 or 5 and really get things lit up. All right, I'll see you guys on the next movement video.